Hey YouTube, it's Danny and Michael, and today we're going to be updating the tier list for 1v1 team games, etc. But in this version, we're going to update it with some of the latest reworks for the native civs, including the new DLC Italy and Malta. All right, Danny, so what's the first civ we're going to talk about today?
All right, so the first thing that we're going to look at is the Aztecs. The Aztecs haven't had a whole lot of work done on them since the definitive edition has come out, so they haven't changed too much. The Aztecs have been in the lower tiers before, and I think they're going to stay there. Now, what are some reasons the Aztecs are going to be low in the tier list, Mike?
I think it's because the native civs in general have a weak eco. They are just have been neglected by the devs, and a lot of their cards, they it's just hard to pick a good deck for them, I think.
Mhm. Yeah, they do have a strong rush at the beginning. They have great units, the Eagle Runner Knights, but that's about it. Um, yeah, the Aztecs kind of just stay down in the lower tiers.
Yeah, it doesn't help that a lot of their units cost wood.
Mhm. Now, a nexus that's quite popular in this game is the British. The British, I believe, are going to go high up in the tier list. Mike, where do you think they belong? Yeah, the S tier. That's what I think too.
I agree. The manners are just really strong.
Yeah.
I mean, the only problem is that they lose if they don't have hunts, but you can say that about any civ, to be honest. Um,
hmm
they have great units, a lot of upgrade cards, and at any point in the game, really, they just are very strong.
Yeah. They're definitely strong, really well rounded. They're good in any age. So the British have been up in the A or S tier for a while.
I would agree.
How about the Chinese, Mike? We play China a lot.
Yeah, they're my main civ. I love them. They are strong throughout the entire game, age 1, 2, all the way through 5. They have a great economy because of their 220 population, a strong FF, and it's not necessarily their units that are good individually, it's all of the composition as a whole. You're fighting against 6 different types of units, and it's really oppressive to beat.
But isn't it one of their weaknesses as well to be fighting against those six types of units? Because don't you have to train units in batches? And sometimes the units that you get are trash while being paired with some units that you actually want.
Yeah, if China could individually train units, they would be the best civ of all time. It's just a
hmm
lot of times, as you mentioned, they have really shitty units like the Chang Daos or Iron Flails, and you're like, I just want Arquebusiers or Meteor Hammers. But once you get a hang of the Banner Army system, it's really good.
Yeah, and you said they were good in H5. I thought China had pretty weak units overall, and in H5, weak units don't really do it for the winning seven.
Yeah, I mean, granted, a lot of late tier civs will probably beat them late game, but you have to get there for that to happen. And I mean,
Right.
their economy's so strong, they're never going to run out of resources. They'll just keep pumping out units like nobody's business.
Yeah, and if they have all those wonders, they still stay pretty strong.
I agree.
All right, how about the Dutch? Now, Mike, we used to play this game back in the late 2000s when we were in middle school, and back then the Dutch were one of the best cities in the game, but now it doesn't seem to be that way.
Yeah, they've been nerfed with their XP bonuses for building banks, which really hurts their momentum. And in 1v1s, I mean, they just get wrecked. It takes too long for them to boom. But once they do boom, if you're not beating them by 10 minutes, you might as well resign. The game is over. The revolution for
Yeah.
South Africa is obscene. Um, and I think, honestly, just one of the best economies in the game, period.
Yeah, the Dutch are definitely really tough to play as age two, age three, but once you get into age four and age five, they are really strong. They got those Reuters, they got their horse artillery, they got those halberdiers. It's a pretty good mix. And the skirmishers, sorry, not the halberdiers.
Yeah, their skirmishers are good, and they have some really
Mhm.
lame mercenary strats because they have so much coin. I
Yeah.
think it's fair to put them in the middle, the serviceable, not anything special or broken per se,
Yeah, we could
but
put them lower in a 1v1 and higher in a team, but
yeah,
for all purposes, we'll put them in the middle.
I think that's a good
Now,
idea.
Now, how about Ethiopia, Mike? I don't have the Africa DLC, but you do. I haven't played with them.
I've been playing a lot more Ethiopia lately, and I've got to say, they are really fun to play as. They have a really strong unit roster. Their cav is not that great, to be honest, but they have a really good economy. Their livestock market for the African civs is really strong. And, I mean, once they get that big boy mortar out, it's kind of scary to play against.
Mm.
Now, they also have a really good outlaw rush, which is really hard to beat in 1v1s. But I will say, although they've received the coin buff, which has their coin generation on par with the Dutch, with the mountain monasteries, I think I just need more time with them. But I think they're probably B tier, probably above the Dutch, just because of the 1v1s. Maybe bottom
Mhm.
of A tier.
Yeah, yeah, slightly undiscovered sit, not very popular in the online.
Yeah, and I think there's a good reason, as we'll get to later, why more people play Hausa than Ethiopia.
Yeah. Now, a popular civ that we see a lot is France. France is a great civ, just all around. They've been pretty consistently ranked as S tier by most people online. But Michael, what are your thoughts?
France is probably the most forgiving civs. Their Cours de Bois are really powerful with a 25% eco boost gathering rate. They get guard
Yeah,
units for every unit. Their cav is absolutely oppressive, and if you see 15 cuirassiers, you're going to be worried about that, to
yeah,
say the
those heavy
least.
cabs, really, really good.
Yeah. Now, just because they can get guard doesn't mean they're all good. I mean, most of their units are just pretty average, probably better than average. I would put them probably the bottom of the A tier or the top of B tier. What do you think? Where should we place these boys?
I would definitely keep them in A tier. But I'm interested as to why you don't think they're S tier anymore.
I think a lot of it has to do with their water play. It's not the best.
It
And
never has been.
yeah, and you can't really spam cuirassiers like you could in Legacy Edition, where they would just pop out like H4 Russian
Yeah.
musketeers. And I mean, their eco can keep up with the cuirassier production, but it's just not as much, and it's not as terrifying as it used to be.
So next up, let's take a look at the Iroquois, or the Houdiness. Oh, believe it.
Yes, yes.
Hopefully saying that right. Now the Iroquois are great. Well, no, they're actually not great. They're great at crushing, and they're great. They have great skirmishing. But they have a lot of problems with their Civ that make it not close to the top of it. Mike, where would you put the Iroquois?
You know, I think as this list grows, I'm going to put them in the A tier, probably the bottom as this
Bottom of the
expands.
A tier, top of the B. Yeah, that's what I was
Yeah.
thinking.
Now, the Forest Prowlers are absolute chads. They can
They are
just.
great.
They will win all of your skirmisher battles. They destroy heavy infantry, but you don't have hunting dogs. You don't have nearly as many eco upgrades as, say, like the French or the
Yeah,
British.
the
And
cards aren't
yeah,
there,
the cards just aren't there to support the eco. And light cannons, although they're S tier, it's so hard to produce a bunch of units. And when the natural
but
resources run out, it's pretty much GG for the native.
yeah, but their rush is great in the beginning, especially because you just have to focus on food and wood primarily, just a little bit of wood really, because you can just get those hyena for just food, and you can really pack a really devastating quick rush with the Iroquois.
Yeah, and that one card that gives their war chief the siege damage. Oh man, that's brutal.
Yeah,
That's
that's a great
brutal.
one. All right, so next up, let's talk about the Hausa. Mike, that's another city that you like to play. That's
Yeah. Now, I think Hausa is better than Ethiopia for one reason and one reason alone. I'm going to put them in the A tier. Their market, so the African civs depend on the livestock market, where they can exchange their cattle for wood or gold. Ethiopia, when they run out of livestock, they kind of run into this problem where they either need to ship a card to send more or they need to buy some. Hausa, with every shipment they get a cattle. So you can eat two cattle right off the bat and send a villager shipment. Boom, you've got another one. age to age 2, boom, you've got another one. Lafitte Knights and Fellaini Archers, that composition. I mean, Lafitte Knights are low key like Cuirassiers. Not as good, but I mean, they might as well be. And Fellaini Archers are just incredibly powerful. I think Hausa is really good. They did receive a cattle nerf. That's the only reason I'm not putting them in the S tier, though.
Yeah, it seemed like a good civ.
Yeah.
All right, the Inca used to be a great civ, but now they do not seem to be played very often. In my community, I think Inca is going to be a little bit further down on the tier list for a number of reasons. Just like the Aztecs, they are only infantry based, right? Which comes with a lot of weaknesses. What do you think about the Inca?
Yeah, as you said, I mean, when they came out, they were just OP, just completely broken. Their mechanics were broken where you could just pop units in and out of the fort for no detriment. But now, I played a couple games with them the other day. I'm gonna put them in the C tier. They've been nerfed. The rockets have been nerfed to death. The concha houses nerfed to death. And really, you can only train Chimu runners and jungle bowmen. I mean,
Yeah, it's a good turtling civ, but even that, it's they're not too good anymore.
yeah, I agree.
Concha houses aren't as strong as they used to be. Yeah. All
So
right, how about India?
I think India's kind of a sleeper civ, to be honest.
I think that too. You don't see that many Indian players, but when you do see one, they're usually pretty good.
Yeah,
Uh, India has a lot going on in that civ. A lot of unique things going on.
yeah. I think of the three Asian civs, their consulate is probably the weakest. But I mean, once you get that critical mass of high hit point sepoys, tanking for your Gurkhas in the back line, which you get in Age 2, they are really tough to beat. Now, the Camels are absolute poop. I don't think anybody
Yeah,
should be training
garbage.
Camels.
Never.
Their stats are
Not
horrible.
anymore, at least.
Yeah, no. But their
But
elephants,
elephants,
yeah, that on the other hand, you get a couple of elephants in your base, I'm dropping a brick, bro. Like,
but a lot of people make the mistake of getting too many elephants. You
yeah,
really only need like two or
yeah,
three, and that'll do it. That because otherwise you're gonna get top tech. You're not gonna have a big enough army, and I mean the elephants do go down. You
yes,
know
yes,
they do go down.
yeah.
And you lost them. All right. Next up, Italy. This is a civ that. Oh, did you? Yeah, put them in. So Italy. I don't have this new expansion, Mike, so you're gonna have to speak on this one.
Italy, I think, is going to be in the C tier. They have
Yeah.
this awkward gap where they have to train Paviziers, and they send a bunch of cards for them, which make them really good. And then you hit the fourth age, and then you just have these Burglisariaries. I don't even know how you say it, but essentially they're age 4 guard skirmisher. Their architect is really nice. You get free villagers with each market that tech or whatever technology that's civilian based that you produce. But you know what? I mean, I just don't think. And it's nice that the Basilica gives you shipments for mercenaries, but I feel like the Lombards are kind of just a gimmick. I don't really think they're that good, to be honest.
All right. How about Japan? Now, Japan has one of the best imperial ages in the game. The best age by for a number of reasons. But Japan also has some drawbacks, but I think it still warrants it being an N Smart A tier. What do you think here, Mike?
I think they're the top of the A tier.
Top of the A tier, yeah. That's
The only
fitting.
reason they're not S tier is because they need a lot of map control, and your shrines need to be everywhere, and it's really easy to siege them down. And even if you only destroy 5, 6, 7, it's a noticeable difference because you only get 75 villagers. But
Mm-hmm.
if your shrines are in safe locations, you've got a military to stop any raids on your shrines. My God, it's over. The Ashigaru, the Yumis, the Nagis, the Daimyo running into your base and just shitting out 10 flaming arrows is just.
Yeah,
I mean,
more towers.
what are you gonna do about it?
They have great musketeers. They have great skirmishers too. Those Yumi archers are pretty decent. And yeah, They're not great age 2 or age 3, but age 4 and age 5, they are pretty tough to beat.
Yeah, I would agree.
Um, let's take a look at the Lakota now. The Sioux.
Yeah.
Now the Sioux just got a couple of big changes did recently, which I don't know if it helps or hurts it necessarily.
At first, when I saw they took away the 4 and 5 villager shipments and the shipment for villagers in age 1, I thought they were just going to die, to be honest. But they start with 200 wood now, so they can immediately build a trading post. And they also have teepees, which now are eco buildings as well as military buildings. And so they get an extra 10% from each teepee, which is really nice. And it's very noticeable. The more I play with Lakota and the more bow riders I spam with axe riders, the more my opponents are weeping in their base as I raid their villagers and they can't do a thing about it. I think personally, where I would put them probably the B tier. You know, I think they still do have some weaknesses though, just in the late game when the resources run out. But the infinite bison is really nice.
Yeah, they are just a very annoying stick to play against them.
Yeah,
For
nobody
sure.
likes to play against them.
Yeah. Now let's move on to Malta. Now here's another Civ that I don't know much about.
Yeah, I think Malta is way better than Italy. They're definitely a more defensive civ. Their arbalesters are the guard crossbow, so they actually have crossbowmen where you send cards for, and then you can still upgrade them in the fourth age. Their fire throwers are absolute units. I mean, they're literal units, but I think you get what I'm saying. They're really damn good. They get the fire thrower, flamethrower upgrade, the rocket upgrade, and their order units too. I mean, you can get cuirassiers, oprichniks. I mean, anything. They don't really have many gaps in their unit roster.
Mm-hmm. But they seem like another infantry heavy Civ
Yes, yes.
for
Now,
sure.
the nice thing is that once they get their commanderies up, they can get shadow teched cavalry that it gets the next age's upgrade for free, which is really nice. So they get really powerful units, and they're also 10% better than whatever unit they're shadow teching at or getting. So if you have a cuirassier for Malta, it's 10% better.
Hmm. Yeah, another infantry kind of heavy is the Ottomans that we're going to take a look at.
Yeah.
The Ottomans, they are strong in certain situations. And what do you think about the Ottomans, Mike?
I think the Ottomans probably B tier. In 1v1, they're really good. I mean, you can get up to 1300, 1400 elo just doing the Ottoman Fast Fortress. But, I mean, they're so predictable. It's like, okay, I'm playing Ottoman, so what am I going to get? And, of course, Jan's Abyss guns. It's really easy to counter, and but I mean, it's still good. Like it's a one-trick pony, but they're good at it. So I think it's fair to say that they're a serviceable civ. The free villagers
Yeah,
being produced from your town centers, if you get a town
is a
center boom
huge
going,
plus.
huge plus. I love that.
And then I like the Janissaries. The Abyss guns are good, and the Spahi are one of the best things in the game.
Yeah, they can be game ending in 1v1.
Yeah. Now another crazy Civ to look at is Mexico.
Oh god.
Oh god, I think Mexico, in my opinion, has I can't figure out how to play against that. To be
Yeah.
honest, it just seems like it's a pay to win Civ still. It just seems like it's just like a whole other game. I mean, they just
Yeah.
have so much going on. I don't even know how to do it. They revolt in the second age. They don't have anything. And then all of a
Yeah.
sudden, their 20 villagers become 20 military men. You know,
The Central America revolt basically gives them a really cheap fortress age and they get 7 villagers on top of the villagers that they have. So you're basically getting a 7 villager age up. You get access to ridiculous techs. You can do falconet spams. The haciendas are just factories that you can also garrison villagers in. The chinacos are lancers that counter infantry and cav. I mean, the soldados are musketeers and grenadiers. There's really nothing wrong
Yeah,
with this civ. I mean, they're just broken. They've been nerfed, but I mean, they need to be nerfed more. I hate playing against Mexico, and you know what? I'm gonna put them above
yeah.
China. They're really just
I
broken
would
as
put them in
fuck.
front of Britain too,
Yeah,
like
honestly, I think they're like the best civ in the game right now. Like they are just
right now.
absolutely broken as
Hmm.
shit. Like I queue up against a Mexican player in a lobby, and I'm like, wow, like GG, bro.
Yeah. All right, so next, let's take a look at Portugal. Now, Portugal used to be high up on the tier list. It still is up there, but you know, Portugal is a tough sim to play to
It
get the hang of.
is. I mean, yeah, they get a lot of map control because the town centers you get on age up, but they've had a lot of food nerfs and increases to their cost of units and food, and they don't have falconets. And if you're a European civ and you don't have falconets, what are you doing, bro? Like, I
Yeah, they
I
don't
I think
have
we can put them at the top of the C tier. Honestly, I don't think
tough
they're that
views
good.
there. Yeah,
One v
yeah,
one.
actually, yeah.
If I queue up against a Portuguese player in 1v1, D tier, easy. Water, maybe bottom of B tier. I think because of their water play, and it's just that good.
Yeah, the Dragons are good. The Caçadores are decent, but the Falcon actually hold them back. And just like the amount of food you need for that Civ, you just never get the hang of it. I
Yeah,
think everything's very expensive.
yeah.
Now, Civ that's not expensive. It's the Russians. I love playing the Russians. They're also quite different from the rest of the European Civs for a number of reasons. However, I don't think they're that great. You know, they are kind of a one-trick pony. They're really only good for that initial rush in the beginning, swarming the enemy with as many units as you can in the first 8 minutes. But you know, late game, their units just can't really keep up. They don't have the stats that are comparable to all the other six. So once that population reaches 200, there's really no Russians.
Yeah. And you have to get 99 villagers with the Russians. Like, you can get
Mm-hmm.
away with other civs with only getting, like, I don't know, 60, 70. But with Russia, you need that eco to pump out all of those units. And
Yeah,
they
and
are
it's
good in
fun
age
in
4.
H4
Yeah,
when
it's
you're
fun.
pumping out those musketeers almost instantly if you get all the right cards and church upgrades. And the last thing that we have to mention about Russia is, of course, the opportunities, the
Yes.
raiding cap. It is specifically designed raiding cap with multipliers against villagers. That's the. I guess Russia's really a two-trick pony because that's the second trick we could pull off if the rush fails. Is you send in a horde of Opernicks in the back of their base and hope you win.
Yeah, I
Hope you do
mean,
enough damage that you.
yeah, you basically just pass their army, blow up the factories, they die, and then you just train more Musk. So, I
Yeah.
mean, it can be annoying as hell when you just see a box of Oprichniks in your base and you're like, well, that kind of sucks. I'm fighting all these Musk.
Mhm.
Um, I think Portugal would probably beat them, to be honest, just because of their units and all in all.
Mhm.
I don't know. What do you think? Should we put them higher than Portugal, higher than Malta? What are your thoughts?
I would keep Portugal where you had them in the top of C tier.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. How about Spain? Let's take a look at them. They
yeah,
kind of do everything well. They do anything and everything. Got their shipments on deck. Their Lancers, I'm not a huge fan of.
yeah. I do think though. Like you said, they can do everything and they can do it well. They have all the units that you could possibly want. They have a
And they got
really
some
strong
nice new
eco.
cards. They can make
Yeah,
haciendas. They got
yeah,
10 gold. Those are great shipments.
yeah. And I do like playing the logistician build. I think they're in the S tier, probably the lower end.
Hmm.
I really like playing a Spain, and you know you've got a Spanish teammate. It's like they can fill whatever hole on your team that your team doesn't have.
Yeah. How about Sweden? Sweden used to be up there. They're another city that's been kind of getting balanced out, rightfully so. Um, Sweden. I got those Torps taking over
Yeah,
the map, but now they're not as good, which is a huge plus for everyone who fights a Swedish player.
yeah, I agree. Now the Torps,
And,
as you
and what is
mentioned,
their one trick pony? They really only got one track.
Corollians, and when you think you have enough Corollians, you spam more Corollians.
Mhm.
Like early game, the
Maybe a couple
Corollians
leather
are
cannons.
weak. Yeah, I get some leather cannons, switch to Falcons, and they do have that charge ability on the Corellians, which is nice. But I mean, honestly, if you just train skirms and Falx, like there's not much you can do. I think they're in the C tier. Um, they used to be S tier. They used to be broken, but I think they've been balanced in a way that is fair. Because, and the other thing that sucks is like once your torps run out of resources, that's a huge loss to your eco.
Mhm. Yeah, right. All right, let's take a look at the United States here. Now, I've been playing the United States a lot, and in my opinion, they're pretty decent. They're not great. They're not bad. I would give them top of B tier, though. The Marines, not so good. The Minutemen idea, it's nice. It doesn't really help all that much. Um, the state militia are pretty decent. I like the regulars. I like the Gatling guns. They're pretty strong. I love the immigrant cards, but it takes a while for Mera to get started. It takes them until the middle end of third age, really, before they really start going strong. They have a couple of good shipments, but you need to send all of them. So, like, you really don't feel like they're getting started until you sent, the first 5 or 6 shipments. And by then, a lot has happened.
I agree. And the big thing too is when you see a USA player's deck or what they've revolted into, they're locked into that strategy, and you know what's coming.
Yeah.
You know what's
Mm-hmm.
coming right after that. So
But they have a pretty good late game, which I do appreciate.
yes, they are strong in
That's
the late
pretty
game
good.
for sure.
All right, so let's take a look at our last civ, Germany. Here's another civ that I really like to play. I would put them uh, up either. Yeah, I'll probably put them in like the top of A tier, probably behind Japan though. I think they're behind France. I don't know.
This
I
one's tough for me. I not D tier. I okay. Just imagine
not
that's
C
not up there.
tier.
No. I do agree they're a good civ. The thing is for me is they don't have a good heavy infantry besides the Doppelsoldater and
Right, they don't have
Age two.
musketeers, which is the
Yeah,
biggest drawback.
and Age
But
two,
they
they
have
suck, bro. They suck in Age two.
H2, they don't really have anything. The ideas, right? Go to the fast fortress as soon as possible.
Right.
My strategy though is you get those Yolans with those shipments, and the idea is keep your opponent in their base, right? Stop them from attacking you by making him defend his villagers, and then you can fast fortress, and then you don't even have to worry about the H2.
Yeah, the
But I
Germans
think
are.
Germany's really good. The
Mhm.
chapter Ulans are great. I know they don't have a heavy infantry, but the skirmishers are good. Paired with the war wagons, they soak up the damage. It's not so bad. The war wagons are great. They're great anti-cav. Uh, and yeah, I don't know. I really like the Germans.
Yeah, no, they are the ideal semi-fast fortress civ, and they do it really well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, thank you guys for joining, and let us know what you think. Did we get it right? Are there any other civs that you would move around here? And I think this is a good distribution. The game in this state relatively balanced, except for like
Yeah.
maybe these civs up here.
Right. None of
Um,
the civs make it into D tier. Like even those C tier civs, they're pretty playable.
yeah,
They're still. So the game is in a great spot, honestly. It's a pretty balanced game, especially considering how different each of these civs are. You would think that those differences would have astronomical, you know, um, balance issues, but they're yes, it's pretty solid balance in themselves. Civs.
I agree. Credit to the devs.
Well, let us know what you guys think in the comments below.